Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for having this hearing. Thank you for all the witnesses for being here. Ms. Bradley, would you make any changes to existing civil service laws to make it easier to discipline employees so that managers aren't trapped in a system where at least it appears to us on the outside that settlement agreements are used because there's no other avenue to hold someone accountable?
So there are some important and I think helpful provisions in the House bill on accountability as well as in the Senate bill on accountability that our department supports. I think that we've made clear in our public statements and in our testimony that we do believe in strict accountability measures.
So specifically, what would you like to see changed?
I guess I'm concerned about the disparity for VA senior executives that the bill language affords. So I spent most of my federal career at the Department of Defense. So for example, recently I was trying to hire our top procurement lawyer. And so where did I want to go? I wanted to go to DOD and recruit there because that's where they do the most contracting work. So I wanted to go back to the Department of the Navy where I had worked, or I wanted to go to the Defense Logistics Agency.
Okay, hurry up, be specific. My time's running out.
So specifically, when I reached out to people and said, I want you to come to VA, I need your help, they said, yeah, but you treat senior executives differently at VA. And so why would I leave my department? So that's what I'm concerned
No,
with.
you're talking about the status quo. You're not, you're
saying
saying the status quo is broken. And I'm saying what changes would, okay, I'm not going to get a good answer from you on that, so let's move on to something else. Is it discretionary with the VA in a settlement agreement to remove derogatory information from an employee's permanent record, or not to allow it to go into the record in the first place?
Well, that is the purpose of a clean record. You enter into an agreement as to exactly what will be reflected in the SFP.
So it's a negotiating tool.
It is a negotiating tool, which is why we haven't completely outlawed it. We frown on it, but there are some instances where we want the ability to be able to do that, to settle the case.
We on the committee here, I think everyone here wants, number one, the taxpayer to be protected, the dollars to be spent for the veterans' needs, and for justice to be done. Innocent people not to be punished, or guilty people to be held accountable. And if the withholding of derogatory information from someone's record is a negotiating tool, it seems to me that that's liable for abuse. Have you ever seen cases where something should have been in someone's record that got removed that you think the next employee should have known about, especially if it was a federal employer?
I think you're exactly right. I think that's why we've moved away from the use of clean record settlements. I think that's why the MSPB frowns on them. So I think that you raise valid points. I don't know what to say other than we don't use them regularly, as has sort of been depicted that that's the way we do business.
Thank you. Mr. Brockman, how would you comment on this topic?
I would note that the ability to give an employee a clean record through settlement negotiations, when we're talking about a whistleblower who's come forward, and part of the retaliation they believe they've suffered is derogatory information in their personnel file, that is a negotiating tool that we at OSC do like to have on the table for the parties, because it is important that it not follow them for the rest of their career just because they had a retaliatory supervisor who placed it in their folder. So I would just want to make sure that that ability is taken into account from OSC's perspective as well, that this clean record provision in settlement agreements often does help the whistleblower themselves.
Would you recommend any changes in the regulations or laws to make sure that that's not abused?
I don't have any particular specific recommendations on the legislation. I can tell you one observation, one area that we have mentioned that could be improved is the idea of having a permanent office within the VA whose statutory mandate is to be identifying potential problem areas, whether it's in patient care or whistleblower retaliation issues, to make sure that they can